to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're covering the gear that I used at Hesco Zombie Invitational 3-Gun of 2019. Alright, so if you've watched all 11 stages of my videos, you realize that I was wearing black the whole time. And that was part of the theme. Because we're killing zombies here. And if, like I did, growing up watching zombie movies, especially the George A. Romero classics of the 70s and some of the other ones of the early 80s, one of the good guys always wore black. So figured you had to be, if you're going to kill the zombies, you're the good guy, wear black. Next it came down to what weapons was I going to use during this contest. And once again, in keeping of the theme of fighting zombies in the classic zombie movies, what did you see in all those zombie movies the good guys using? An M16. So, got me a Brownells BRN A1. Yeah, so did this with an iron-sighted A1 rifle. And it was fun, and it was pretty challenging. Left me short in a couple stages where the guys who had the variable optics definitely had an advantage over me. But for the fun factor, it was well worth it. Well, this was a 3-gun event. Now, the first day you used your rifle and pistol. On the second day, it was shotgun and pistol. And for a shotgun, what do you see in the zombie movies? Well, usually, honestly, you see a Woodstock Ithaca 37 or 870 police model. Well, I don't have an Ithaca 37. My 870 is my granddad's, and I didn't feel like getting it messed up at a match because it's family heirloom, so I went with the Mossberg 590. And the reason I chose my 590, it was the closest to what was in the movies that I had, but it also had a nice long tube, so it had an 8-round capacity, which I knew was going to be a factor. And since there was a requirement for at least 5 slug shots, I had ghost ring sights, and that would give me better aiming capabilities. Also on my 590, I do run a side saddle, so that gave me extra rounds on the gun, and that did come in handy on stage 9. For the pistol on both days, I chose to go with an XDM9. And the reason for that, quite simply, capacity. The standard magazine capacity on an XDM9 is 19 rounds. In this case, I had a +2 on one of my magazines, so every stage I started out with 21 rounds in the gun. Figuring the faster reload is the reload you don't have to make. And besides, there's a lot of zombies, and 2 to the body and 1 to the head minimum. It's a lot of shots. Admittedly, in most zombie movies that you see, when the heroes get down to using handguns, it's usually a revolver. And yeah, I have revolvers. Yeah, I could have done it, but I felt it was going to be too much of a disadvantage to the match, that constantly reloading 6 shots at a time, especially when you've got to go 2 to the body and 1 to the head on each zombie. Now, that being said, I did see competitors there shooting revolvers. One guy even had a .44 Magnum. So, you know, it's not saying it can't be done. It was just, I didn't think I was willing to try it. The required equipment for the Zombie 3-Gun Invitational was you had to have a rifle, a shotgun, a pistol, and you had to have a backpack and a knife. Okay, the knife was easy, as you can see here. The knife I chose to use was a good old-fashioned K-bar. Because why? We're killing zombies, that's why. You want to make sure you kill them dead, and K-bar's got legendary reputations for doing that. Now, you know, they only had to use it on 2 stages, stage 1, stage 7, so after being tackled by zombies, which was a horrible experience, you had to stab one before he could tackle you. And I want to iterate again. I know I said it during the stage videos, but I'm going to say it again. When you're stabbing a zombie, stab the damn zombie. Don't stick it in like you're putting a pin into a corkboard or something. Stab it like you mean it. In addition to having your rifle, your shotgun, and a pistol, and a knife, you're required to have a backpack. And I really tried to game this one here. When I looked at the round count and everything, I thought, you know what? I can get through this without a backpack. I really thought I could. And I almost did it. I had 7 magazines, 210 rounds. You needed only, I believe it was 170 rounds of rifle ammo. So I had a little extra. And I also had a USGI bandolier. So I had another 120 rounds there if I needed it. For the shotgun portion, the vest, using a Blackhawk shotgun rifle vest. And it holds 28 rounds. I had 6 in the side saddle. I had a USGI shotgun pouch on my belt, and plus I had a 55-round bandolier. And with that, I had enough rounds. It was 100 rounds of bird or buck, and that got me just over the 100-round threshold. And I really thought I could get away with it, but common sense, doing a little practice in the basement before the match, just realized having the bandoliers on me and all the ammo that you were still going to need the backpack no matter what. So I did use it, and basically what I did with the backpack, I kept my lunch in it, and I just decided to cart all the ammo around each day. So on the first day when we're shooting rifle, I still had my shotgun ammo with me in the pack, threw in a little extra pistol ammo, which I'm glad I did because I ended up needing it. Yeah, so the idea behind my getup here was to have no need to have a backpack. Or if I was going to have a backpack to comply with the rules, it was just going to be there and be empty. In the end, I decided to use the backpack since I had to have it. But it explains, if you look here closely, at my equipment belt, it's festooned with magazine pouches, as you can see. It's got 6 pistol mag pouches on it, plus a GI shotgun pouch holding a dozen shotgun rounds. And really, if you pack those right, you can get more than a dozen in. But yeah, that was the goal. It didn't work out. However, it did make carrying ammo somewhat convenient, so I did stick with it, but I did not wear the bandoliers. I kept them in the pack along with a few other sundry items and the extra ammo.
So, the question is, how did all this gear work? In actuality, not bad at all. You know, considering that I was going in the zombie theme. So it was a 3-gun match, and I didn't come to shoot a 3-gun match. I came to kill zombies. Okay, the guys who came to shoot a 3-gun match did very well. They had the right equipment, and they were prepared for it, and they got good results because they were prepared for it. I decided to go with the limitations of a guy killing the zombies in the 1970s and early 80s. And while there were limitations, one thing it didn't limit was the amount of fun that I had. And it was a blast. It is a wonderful contest, and I highly encourage everybody to sign up for next year's. Now, how did the rifle perform? Well, it's an A1. Brownells is making a good product. I intend to do a review on this rifle at a future date, more in depth, so stay tuned to the channel for that. But yeah, the rifle performed. One time I had to clear a malfunction, and honestly, I think it was either a magazine or an ammo-related malfunction. I think it has nothing to do with the rifle. It was on the clock, it was on the stage 1 PBR, and it happened so fast I just cleared it and got through, didn't take time to analyze anything, so that's why I'm going to chalk it up to magazine or ammo and not the rifle. The rest of the time, the rifle performed. You know, you see in stage 4, longer ranger, that, you know, what got me was iron sights and slow shooting on my part. Nothing wrong with the rifle. The rifle had the ability to get out there to 500 yards. And if anybody doubts the ability of 5.56 to go 500 yards, all I'm going to say is check with the U.S. Marine Corps, since you're required to qualify at that distance. The rifle performed. Can't complain. All right, the next weapon you were required to have, a shotgun. I decided to use the Mossberg 590. And you can see right here, she's a little worse for wear. As we do a close-up here on the camera, and as I mentioned on stage 7, my sling got wrapped around the muzzle as I was going through the Hesco house, and I blew it off right here. You can see the scraps of it. And as I've checked it out compared to how it was before, I'm about 6 inches of sling shorter than when I was. So somewhere laying in that house is 6 inches of sling and a couple of buckles. Clearly, the mount took a brunt of it and it's all tore up. But it was a lesson learned, and I'm not going to complain about that. The Mossberg 590's design compared to the 500 is that the magazine tube is full length and the end cap's right out here at the muzzle. If you're going to use a sling attachment that's retained by the muzzle cap, that's where it's got to be. It can't be anywhere else. And that allowed the sling to get wrapped around the muzzle. Ideally, it would be back here where my field expedient zip strip and tie a knot method got me through the rest of the match. And what am I going to do in the future? Well, I'm going to find a better sling mounting solution for this particular shotgun. And when I do, I'll do an update on that just so everybody's aware of it. But yeah, I would ideally like the sling to be attached in the front at about this location. The third weapon you had to have was your pistol. And it was the one weapon that was consistent beside your knife across both days. I chose to use the XDM9, as I mentioned earlier, strictly for capacity. The other thing I liked about this particular pistol is you notice the setup I have it in. I have it on a thigh rig mount using a Blackhawk level 3 Serpa, and I also have my knife mounted to it. And that played into my decision too, because as I mentioned earlier, I was trying to get through without needing the backpack. And so by moving the pistol and the knife down to my thigh, it kept everything on me. There were no restrictions in the rule about thigh rigs. There was no restrictions in the rules about SERPA. So since the restrictions weren't there, I decided to make use of it. And I'll tell you straight up, the SERPA performed for me. I didn't have any troubles with it during the match, and it performed well. All right, here's my utility belt that I used. Now I'll admit, in most zombie movies, that if you see anybody wearing any type of belt carrying ammunition, it's usually a police style belt with leather and speed loaders and stuff like that. But hey, I had to make some allowances for the match. Now as you see here, it's just festooned with pistol magazines. And that was part of my original theory of not having the backpack. I had to carry as many magazines as I could. I have several different types of magazine pouches because I didn't consider it that important how I carried them, and just as long as I could. Since I'm right-handed, I reload from the left. This pouch, before a stage, I could pre-open the flaps, and they have some clamps in here that hold them in place. So that was the mags I drew for during a stage. The GI pistol mags here were available for reload, and on my right-hand side, I had some other magazines, and basically as I went through the match, I just rotated them around so these pouches here were full, and that was a good strategy and it worked well. Of course, I had a dump pouch here. That did come in handy as well as magazines got empty. Last but not least, I had a GI shotgun pouch here. Actually, it's a Korean copy, but it performs the same. There's 12 loops inside of it for holding 12 shells, but if you're not too concerned about that, once you fill up the loops, you can probably cram in about another 4 to 5 rounds to get that extra capacity. And it was not too uncomfortable to carry this all day long. Another item that I was using to carry shotgun shells was here. It was just a simple shotgun bandolier. I don't know what brand it is. I don't know where I got it. I've had it forever. And basically, I used it in the same way you'd use a bandolier that you pull out of an ammo can of 5.56. It had 55 shells on it. And I was going to wear it originally, but like I said, just practicing doing some basic maneuvers in my basement quickly brought to light that that was highly impractical. However, it made it a convenient way to carry rounds in my pack, so I loaded up with rounds, just kept it in the pack, and between stages, just refilled my vest and belt pouch as necessary from it. And for that, it worked kind of good. And you know, it might be something to consider. These are inexpensive. I think the reason I got it was like $2 or $3. I didn't pay real money for it, I remember that. So it's probably not the worst thing in the world to have. Now, do you want to walk around your chest with bright brass and looking like Pancho Villa tactically? No. At a match, who cares? If it works for you, it works. It's really no different wearing this across your body than I saw guys who had chest rigs with individual shells all across their chest. So, you know, it's a nice low-cost solution for carrying a lot of rounds. The backpack I used, I think it's a Miltech, I'm not sure. Once again, this is something I picked up a long time ago for not a lot of money probably, because since I remember no details about how I acquired it, it must have been low cost and a good deal. Probably came part of it got free with something else I purchased. But it's got generous pockets. It has a lot of MOLLE webbing on it, which came in handy on stage 10, stage 11, as you saw in my videos, because I literally just zip stripped the shotgun to it when I realized I wasn't going to use it. So there's generous MOLLE webbing on it. You do have a place in there for a bladder if you choose to use that. And it was more than large enough to haul everything around that I carried with me. And not only was it generous enough to carry everything I needed to carry with me, it was very comfortable. At no time using this pack was it fatiguing. As mentioned in the longer Shotgun Ranger stage, that morning was cold. And out of the pack came my fleece, which I didn't bring here because it was pretty generic, but also came my mechanics wear gloves. And with these came a lesson. They're good. They kept my hands warm, and you're fairly dexterous with them. I wouldn't say you're as dexterous as a pair of flight gloves, but they're pretty good. But I did have a little trouble using them on the rifle stage, which would have been stage 4, and I finger fumbled things around a little bit, and I could have been smoother. And there's only one cure for that. I have to do more practice wearing gloves. All right, last but not least was my vest. And I know it's hard to see here on camera because it's a black vest, I'm wearing black, and everything's blending together. But this was a real help, and it was a good piece of gear. Now, this being a 3-gun match, and no requirements, say like the Armored Plus P in Desert Brutality or TST over in Finnish Brutality, you're free to wear your gear any way you want, and people ran the gamut. Some people, only put their shotgun shell carriers on during the shotgun stages. Some guys took off their mag pouches when they didn't need them. I decided, the vest carried everything, and I would go with it because I figured it was good training. This is the Blackhawk rifle shotgun vest, and it's a good piece of gear. I've had this a long time, and you can tell how long I've had it because the girth adjustments here are all black paracord instead of nylon straps like they are now. And this vest does what it claims to do very well. It can support your rifle or your shotgun. Over here you have 3 magazine pouches that'll hold 6 M4 30-round magazines, and it does it very well. And with a 7th in the gun, that's 200 rounds on tap. That's a basic military issue load right there. Over on this side you have 2 pouches, each one holding 14 shells for a total of 28. I took a little liberties in this one on a different Omega vest I have. They have a 5-round shotgun holder, so I velcroed it to this vest on the generous velcro that Blackhawk gives you over the utility pocket, giving me the ability to hold 5 rounds. I chose to put slugs in here, for example. And the vest worked great. I have a hydration carrier on the back, plus my first aid kit, as you can see here. And the vest was comfortable to wear all day. I noticed a lot of people had rigs that as soon as they got to a stage, it came off until it was their time to shoot. They'd use the rig while they shot, and boom, the moment they were done shooting, the rig came off. This, I wore the whole time, from the moment I got to the range till it was time to pack up and go home. It was very comfortable, and it's been a good investment. I've had it a long time. I intend to keep using it for a lot longer. And if you need a piece of gear that can support 2 distinctly different weapon systems, this is a good thing to consider. So what are my conclusions about the Zombie Invitational of 2019? Well, it was a blast. I had a great time doing it. I'm glad I did it, and I very much intend to come to it next year. If you're a 3-gunner, yeah, it's a good challenge. And also, if you're a general shooter, yeah, this is a good match to go. It's a good skills test for you. It's a great place to test gear. And you get to shoot some stuff that you don't normally see in matches. For example, Hesco has their shoot house right there. And there's not a lot of shoot houses and matches you go to that you get to use your rifle to shoot targets inside the shoot house. In many cases, you get to go into a house, but you're shooting out a window at targets outside, for example. And here at this match, you got to shoot your rifle inside it, you got to shoot your shotgun inside it, there's pistol targets you can engage inside it. And that in itself is pretty good training. There's not a lot of matches out there emphasizing CQB. The stages were varied. You got to do a lot of different stuff. There was flat range work, there was long range work, there was work to accomplish in a heavily vegetated environment. You got to fire from the back of a vehicle. You did targets close up and you did targets far away. You had to bring your whole skill set with you. So as a 3-gunner, I think everybody would have found that a very challenging match. As a general shooter, going to just have fun, well, it's zombies. I had a blast. As you can see, I got into the spirit of things. And definitely I think that's to be encouraged. And if you're just a shooter who doesn't shoot competitively very often, this is also a good match to go test your skill set. You got to use your pistol, you got to use your rifle, you got to use your shotgun. And you learn things there. Lessons I learned, my shotgun reloading skills suck, and I need to get better at them. Other skills I learned that, I have good confidence in my pistol shooting. It wasn't as good as it needed to be, obviously, but I've got a good foundation to keep building upon. And, I have great confidence in my Brownell's 16A1. That rifle performed well. Matter of fact, I'm considering maybe next year as I'll get Brownell's new 4-power scope and try shooting the match again using that and see how the rifle performs. We hope you found this coverage of Hesco's Zombie Invitational 3-Gun of 2019 helpful and informative. Please comment, like, and subscribe, and tune in for our coverage of future shooting events.